you. Hey, freedom fighters. Welcome to another episode here at REI Freedom Podcast. I am your host, Jeremy Beeland. We have yet another week and yet another great guest today. You guys won't know this guy, but I do. And I'm very, very excited. And actually, Dan Toback knows him as well. We're both very impressed with this gentleman. I'm really excited to have him on today. His name is Joe Rosen. He's out of the Port St. Lucie area of Florida, where Dan and I do some business with our coastal Florida home buyers, where we have our Airbnb. And Joe is a realtor. Joe, well, I don't know if Joe does some investing, but he's mostly a realtor. And I really can't wait to share what he's about, guys, because he is legit. Like, you want to see what a top performing realtor does to be successful. Well, we're going to talk about that today. And I'm super excited. So let's just talk a little bit about this. So he has been a realtor for 11 years and has an organization of 50 to 60 agents in 7 different states. He is a team leader. He is definitely a leader as well. And he was in the Army for 10 years as an Arabic linguist. So that's crazy because I don't even know what a linguist is, but he's obviously talking in different languages about it. So it's amazing. Joe, welcome to the show today, brother.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you. It's an absolute honor.
So we came across Joe. So Dan and Joe are in the same market, and he came across this. Dan said, "Hey, you got to go follow this guy. I think you'll really connect with him. You guys seem to be on the same level." I'm like, "Okay." So I go to follow this guy. I'm like, "Oh my God, this guy is awesome." To a point where he doesn't know this is going to really sound fanboyish a lot. But I talk to like my wife, be like, "Oh man, Joe, like his posts, his mindset, his hustle, like it resonates so well with me." And I have just such admiration and respect for you, Joe, as a result of somebody who's followed you in a short amount of time, to a point where I reached out and I said, "Hey, Joe, I want to do business together." And we did one flip, and Joe was the agent on that flip, and Joe freaking crushed it on that. And I remember he had a deal right down the street from our Airbnb, and I was like, "Oh man, I'll be a cash buyer if this doesn't go the way I hope it does, or doesn't go, or whatever." And sure enough, he got top dollar for it on the market. I was like, how did he sell it for that much money? I don't even get it. But that's how good Joe is. So welcome to the show, Joe.
Yeah, and what an intro. Holy smokes.
Show, huh? Look, you get me all fanboyish. I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore.
Well, I appreciate that. You got to share all that with my wife. I don't think she knows all that.
No, but I'm really excited to have you here today. I mean, you're a top level realtor out of Port St. Lucie. You've been in the Army, so you obviously have a lot of great self-discipline. But as I was saying about what you do, a lot of people don't understand what it takes to be successful. You wake up early every day with a mission and a passion. You work hard each and every day. You put family first, which I love. Tell us a little bit about your story, how you got into the Army, how you got into real estate, and kind of what your mindset is like.
Sure. I started selling real estate back in probably 04, 05 in Minnesota at a place called Edina Realty. It's kind of a local Midwestern brokerage, and love sales, instantly love sales. Started getting into all the sales books and the Zig Ziglars and the Brian Tracys and all those guys, and which honestly has changed my life as a person. Like, forget business, forget real estate. That stuff changes your life.
It does.
And I was a party animal. I don't know if I shared this with you. I was a party animal. And I was, drinking. I was doing cocaine. I was with girls. I was just partying way more than I should have been. And I was making good money in my early 20s. I was making, maybe 150, 160, which back then was a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
But whatever I was making, I was spending 10, 20 grand more. And so I was racking up credit card debt. I could have made $1 million. I would have spent 1.1. It didn't matter what I was making. I was an idiot.
Yeah.
But thank God, I was aware enough to see that, and I knew I wasn't going to stop it. So that's kind of what attracted me to the Army. And I said, I got to join the Army. Let's see if this can fix my problems. And it did. It cleared it up real quick.
How old were you when you joined the Army?
27 years old. So I was a late bloomer because in my platoon at basic training of 50, I was third oldest.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was an old man, old 27-year-old.
Yeah. When I
But
joined the Air Force, I was 33, and
oh
my nickname,
wow.
because I lost everything in the recession, so I went into the military at that point to reset my life
Yeah.
and to start building again. And my nickname was Gramps in basic
Yeah.
training because I was like, twice the age of all the 17, 18
Yep.
year old kids.
I
So
will say though, I don't know if you had this experience. The drill sergeants tend to leave you alone if you're in the older half. They bug the younger ones a little bit more.
yeah, I got some leeway there. But my drill sergeants, MTI military training instructors, what we called them in the Air Force. I mean, they were still 10 years younger than me.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was still yelled at by somebody who was much younger than me, and I was just, sometimes they'd be yelling at me, and I'd be like, dude, if we were outside those gates, I would kick your ass so bad right now. But it was all part of the game. I have no regrets. I mean, I had to do a lot of soul searching, rebuilding. The military provided that for me, like you, it
Yes.
was like a reset button for my life, and I'm very thankful
Yeah.
for it.
How long were you in?
So I did the Air National Guard. So, in 2010, I enlisted in June 17th. I was in basic July 5th. So 3 weeks later, after I enlisted, I was in basic training, and I stayed into the end of 2016. Right when I got out of,
Wow.
my Air National Guard commitment, I started my real estate journey, and I've been in real estate ever since.
That's a cool story, man. That's a cool story. And I think you would probably agree with me that not that I wasn't good in sales. Obviously, I was selling some homes back in the day, but I had no organization, no discipline. I'd be a rock star for a month, and then I'd be horrendous for 2 months. And I did what a lot of mid-level realtors do, right? Sell, make the money. And then, oh my God, I'm rich. So you live like you're rich, and then pretty soon you're poor. And it's a 30, 60, 90-day sales cycle. So, getting into the military really taught me a lot of discipline, and even the command and staff meetings, you see what they're checking on, and all the slides and the green, reds, and yellows, and the standards, and the how to follow up on standards and everything else. Literally, we run our team the way that a company or battalion in the Army ran the company or the battalion. And so I forget sometimes how valuable having that background is, because automatically you know how to run an organization, and you don't even really know it. You're just copying what you've seen.
Sure.
So anyone who's had, I don't want to say just military experience, but military experience to the extent that they were in these command and staff meetings and saw what it's like to run an organization, you're just light years ahead of anybody else for that reason. So I did 10 years, and I was an Arabic linguist. And half my time was at the National Security Agency, and the other half was all combat related out in Afghanistan. But eventually, I mean, I got 2 little girls, so I had to get out. I served my time. I thought 10 years was enough, but I still,
That's a long time.
yeah, it was plenty.
How many
But
tours did you do?
say that again.
How many tours did you do?
I just had the one over there, and we did low level voice intercept. So we were down in Kandahar, and it was fun. I'm glad we did it. Essentially, you chase Taliban. Wherever the Taliban was, the Afghans would call and complain, and then we would go there to support. We weren't there to kill. We were there to support.
Right.
And they knew that, but they didn't want to fight the fight. So they would call us in to fight the fight for them. And we wanted to fight. It was just, we had to have a reason. We had to have an excuse. So we needed the Afghans to give us an excuse. But it was a lot of fun. But again, I love my girls so much. I wanted to get out of it. And I did miss, I mean, this is like a game. Even in the investor world, it's a game. And I like the game. I like knowing that I've got to make a certain amount of dials to get an appointment, a certain amount of appointments to get a closing. And so the more calls I make, the more successful I'm going to be. And I love that if I work on my skills, if I role play, if I work on scripts, if I work on objection handling, if I meet with guys like you and learn something that, maybe is a little bit different than what I'm doing, I'm going to get better, and my conversion rates are going to get better. So I can constantly tweak these things that I'm doing in this adult game. And the money's fun, but honestly, it's not even the money that drives me. It's just the fact that every day I wake up thinking, what little thing do I suck at that I can get better at? And it's just fun to chase that.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about that. I told you offline before we got in, I really want to talk about what it takes to be successful, right? And when it comes, you're dealing with listings and buyer agents, right? So you're on market. My world is off market, but the ability to get leads close deals, get sellers to sign, right, contracts, whatever we're looking for, it's all the same, right? You're
Yep.
just working with a different clientele than I'm working, but the method of marketing and acquisitions is still the same. It's a lot of effort, it's a lot of consistency. It requires a lot of time, sometimes a lot of money, combination of both to be successful. You're putting in work like I don't think a lot of people realize what it takes to be successful. Can you give us an idea of like what a typical week looks for you to generate leads and deals in your business?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's an awesome question, right? So I've worked my numbers backwards, and I know that with my conversion ratio and the amount of money I want to make, I need to create 57 conversations a week. So that's not a goal. That's a standard. That is the bare minimum, or I'm not going home. The goal is to do 70, 80, 90, do more. But I'm up at 5:30 every morning. I try to reply to all my texts, emails, everything like that right away in the morning. And then I'm in my gym in my garage. And I wanted a garage gym, not because I like a garage gym more than, another gym, but I don't want the drive time there and back. I'm trying to save time, right? I need more conversations. So I'm in that gym, and I go until about maybe 6:40, and then I go pick my wife up a coffee. That's her love language, and which is easy. I like it. It takes me 10 minutes. And then I come home, and I got a 7-Eleven accountability group, and it's for agents. It's on Facebook, and I'm in there every Monday through Friday at 7-Eleven. That has pushed me. Like, I can't teach you something in 7-Eleven unless I teach myself something first. I got to have something valuable. So, I mean, just like you've got this great sale or training program you've got. A lot of these things you probably either didn't know, or yeah, I know it, but I need to really hone it in if I'm going to teach it. It makes you better. Like, it's valuable for people listening, but it's so valuable for you. And so that's what 7-Eleven has done for me. It's also helped me attract a lot of the agents that I've had in. And then when that's over, it's literally shower and breakfast time. And then at 8 o'clock, I'm on the phones. And so for me, 8 to 11 every morning is phone time. So it's 15 hours a week, right? 5 times 3. And all I'm doing is I'm going into my CRM and I'm doing whatever it tells me. If you're not using a CRM, even if you're an investor, you should be using a CRM. And it should be telling me what to do. So if I've got Jeremy and he tells me, hey, man, I'm thinking about listing my home in a month, I'm not going to remember that. I've got like 3,000 people that are telling me that. So I need to put it in my CRM and put a note on there so that I'll follow up with it. So I'm making all those follow-up calls. That's probably about 45 minutes of my 3 hours. And then the other 2.5 hours is prospecting. So I'll call expired listings, FSBOs, just circle prospecting, calling around, cold calling. I don't really do door knocking anymore, but we used to do door knocking. I'm not against it. It's just for time purposes, I can get a hell of a lot more done over the phone. And I'm good enough on the phone now to be able to do it. So we do that till about 11. And then I got social media where I'm doing YouTube videos, Facebook, Instagram. We try to pump out 18 Facebook posts a week, 3 YouTube videos, and at least 3 Instagram posts a week. And then we're putting up stories all the time. And then it goes into the afternoon. I'm trying to get appointments. If I get appointments, great. If you're not in appointments, you're back on the phone. So then we're doing more of that. And I go pretty much every day until 6 o'clock. That's when we have dinner with the family. So I'm going from 7 o'clock in the morning until 6 o'clock at night. So what's that, 11 hours? And then if I've still got, offers to write or new listings or whatever it is, I'm behind on my email, then I'll come after 7 o'clock and I'll start working on that. So I would say on an average day, I'm probably working 11 and a half, 12 hours. I work Monday through Friday, and then Saturday, usually I've got either an open house or appointments. But again, I'm at work at 8 o'clock and I'm trying to get out by 3, 4 o'clock. I can't always do it, but I would guess on average, let's say I'm out at 3:30. So I'm putting in another 7.5 hours. So all in all, I'm probably putting in 65, 70 hours a week. And of that, 15 to 20 of those hours are going to be prospecting. And the goal of the rest of the time is to be in appointments.
Yeah, right. Sure. I mean, so much to unpack there. So first of all, I can understand your drive, right? Or I should say your commitment to doing great every day, right? So that's definitely very military. Get up early. I got to put in the work. It's just no if and buts about it. Day in, day out. I'm just going to do whatever it takes. But how do you find the motivation to continue to do that day in and day out? Because I mean, that's a grind, man. That's a real grind.
So I'll share this. I'm on my board right now in my HOA, right? And I'm the president, which is the crappiest position there is. And you get nothing out of it, and it sucks, and everybody hates you, and you're a volunteer, and you make $0 for it. And my wife is like, "Why do you do that?" And I'm like, "Because I have this sense of duty." I didn't really want to be an NCO when I was in the Army, but I knew who else would be the NCO if I wasn't, and I felt horrible if they were leading soldiers. So I'm going to be the guy. Give me this unit, give me this task, give me whatever. I think the same is true here. Like when you had your home listed with me, if I'm sitting on my ass doing nothing, I literally feel like I'm screwing you.
Yeah.
And if I'm on the phone making dials, I literally feel like I'm doing what you expect me to do. And I feel like it's my duty. And even if I don't have a seller, let's say, forget the fact that I got a seller, there's somebody out there I could call, some expired, some FISBO, some whatever. And if I take today off and a shittier agent calls them, now they're going to have a worse experience. And that's my fault. And I just can't deal with that, man. I know I can't call everybody today, but my gosh, I'm going to try because I just don't want you to have a bad experience.
Now, 57 conversations a day.
A week.
Sorry, a week. So you reverse engineer. You're doing 57 conversations a week. I mean, that's a lot, right? That's just your base, right? You're always trying to achieve all that. What is your goal? What, if you don't mind sharing, how many? I forget how realtors do it. Like, how many listings do you get a year, or what is your average goal as far as millions of dollars of houses sold? What are you trying to achieve each year?
I think I got my numbers right here. Let me just make sure these are accurate. These are accurate. Okay. So I've got this little slip right here. And I quit reading it all. I just look at the bottom. That tells me 57 a week. But my goal is to make 500 grand a year. I've never made 500 grand. I've made 400 3 times.
That's awesome.
I'm trying this year. We'll see what happens. And that is 42 total sales. So if I get 42 sales, I'll likely hit that, right? On the list side, that is 27 sales. On the buy side, it's 15 sales. I'm just a little bit heavier with sellers than I am with buyers. Yeah. So that's the big metrics.
So if you want to make $400,000 to $500,000 a year, you have to basically, bust your ass to do it 5-6 days a week, get on the phones, prospect like crazy, have conversations, go on appointments, do open houses, because there's no shortcuts to achieving that success.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would throw it there too. You could mimic what I do to the T as a new agent or an agent who maybe does 5-10 deals a year. You're not going to do what I do because I've also had to do a lot of role play. We do role play for half an hour every single day, Monday through Friday. I've practiced my listing presentation probably 200-300 times. The top 10, 20 objections, I've gone through them so many times that I'm not even thinking. It just comes out. We've got these cards right here. These are all objections. And literally every time I'm with a team member or I'm in a Zoom or we're in our sales meeting, I just shuffle the cards, pick one, read it, and I say, Jeremy, go. What's the answer? What are you going to say? And so they're so used to it that they've gotten better at it, and I'm better at it. So you've got to get really good at communicating at just the littlest things, like the tone you use. Are you ending in an up tone or are you ending in a down tone? Like all those things matter. The speed at which you're talking, me knowing what your personality is. I don't know if you've ever heard a DISC profile assessment. Yeah, but knowing, are you a D, an I, an S, and a C? There's different ways to sell a D versus selling an S. It's completely different.
It is.
And all of that, and then trying to create efficiencies and trying to create things that I don't want you to think, hey, this went well. I want you to think this went much better than I think any other realtor could do. And I'm not saying we're always doing that, but we're always thinking about ways to do that. So we try to go really heavy on video. We try to find ways to market more than anybody else markets. We try to aggressively in person with voice to voice market, actual prospecting versus just spending money on mailers that give us a very low conversion. Like I want to beat the doors down. Yeah. So, and I want to be aggressive about it. So I want to say that because I've had a lot of people who mimic what I do and they make 100 grand and they're like, how are you making 400? I'm making 100. You've really got to work on your communication skills and you've got to do it daily.
Well, it's practice, right? Repetition,
Yeah.
and it's a lot about what we do in our coaching program as well, and within our businesses, right? The reason why Dan and my acquisition guy Eddie up in New Hampshire is so great is because they've not only gone through a lot of coaching, but they've been doing it for Dan's been doing it for 10 years, Eddie's been doing it for 5, right? So that repetition of constantly improving and getting better. Is what makes you a master expert, right? So
Yeah.
you've obviously been doing this for a long time. You've practiced and put in all the time and effort to get better, right? It's just kind of like you could be great at, you don't get great at free throws unless you make 10,000 free throw shots,
Yes.
right? It's very similar to that. And the nuances are important. And that's why in our coaching program, we talk a lot about the acquisition skills and have Dan teach that because, you know, you're going to come over objections, and we all have those objections, and how you overcome those is critical to your success. Leaving in an up tone or down tone, right? Mirroring, labeling, right? All these little techniques, and people don't understand that's where all the money's made, right?
Big time.
The work is put in by making all the calls, being all the prospects, but the money's made in the art of getting really good at overcoming
Yeah.
objections and talking to sellers, which obviously you're doing at a high level. Hence why you're doing $400,000 to $500,000 a year, while these other people are doing the same thing but only making 100. That's
Yeah.
the difference, is being really good talking to people.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
100%. And it's I'm sure it's the same in investing. Like if you make enough calls, you're going to get a deal. But if you're also really good at communicating because you've practiced it, you're going to get more deals and the deals are going to be more lucrative for you.
100%. And, that's why when I came into this business in 2017, I learned how to wholesale. It wasn't until into 2018 when I met Dan's brother, Todd, that taught acquisition skills training, that I just dove. I was like, oh my God, right? Because I was in sales, so I knew Brian Tracy and Zig Ziglar, and that's what I used to do when I was driving around back in the day. We used to listen to CDs back in our old CD players in our cars. There wasn't podcasts back then. I used to have to go to the library and go rent them out for the week. But, so I'm always believing that. And then I was like, oh my God. And then all of a sudden, 2.5 times, I did 2.5x the next year, just from acquisition training, not in just volume,
Yep.
but deal size, just because I learned how to overcome objections better and talk better to people. And then I was all in. And then I started when my acquisition guys were coming in, we were training them. I constantly got better. The whole reason why we had Dan and REI Freedom is because I trained them to coach my 2 acquisition guys to be better acquisition, because they were like, they did 100 deals. I couldn't get them any better. I went around the whole country. I came across one guy. He's like, yeah, I've done like 500-600 deals. I can do it. And he was awesome. I paid him thousands of dollars a month to coach my guys. And one of my guys went from 40 something deals one year to 78 in 12 months later.
That's
All because of
awesome.
coaching from Dan. So it
That
just
is
goes to show
awesome.
you how powerful, honing those skills in. And I love the fact that you're having those objections in the cards. I'm thinking to myself, that is totally what I'm doing now in my coaching meetings with my students. I'm going to just stop pulling out objections, because, man, what a way to improve your skills. I mean, that's ingenious. I love that.
Yeah, that's been one of the biggest things that I think value-wise we've offered to the agents that we've got in our organization. And we do it every Monday through Friday. It's from 8 to 8:30. And then from 8:30 to 9, we do, it's called Real Estate Conversations. And so you can talk about anything. If you've got, an issue going sideways, or you've got, a Jeremy calling you and he's offering me what is subject to? I don't know what the hell that is. You can bring those up and we can have those conversations. And we give you critique in the role play. So we'll say, hey, here's the 2 things I think you did really well. Keep doing those. This one thing you did well, but you use this word. I would use this word, and you're going to get it. And so now not only do they see it, but the whole room sees, oh, that wasn't my role play, but I would have said the same thing. I need to change that too. So I agree 100%. There were 2 other things I was going to share. I can't think of what they are. It'll come back to me here.
Well, one thing that I've seen in the last handful of years is, 2020, 2021, everybody was a rock star realtor. All I saw all over social media was, I listed a house, it got 50,000 over asking, no, sold within 24 hours, blah, 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 right? I don't even see those people selling houses anymore at all.
Yep.
If people aren't familiar with Florida as a state is, one city to another city varies differently, right? So what you're doing in Tampa as opposed to Miami, as opposed to Jacksonville, all very different markets within a state. I saw in Port St. Lucie, just in my time, there in the last 2 years, like how quickly that market has shifted, but
Yeah.
yet you're still achieving success regardless of houses sitting on the market longer. Maybe less competition, less buyers, less sellers, all of it.
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of things. I think because we're seeing inventory in the first half of the year was going up, but sales were going up at the same pace. So it ate it all up and inventory didn't change. But now it's continued to go up, the inventory, and sales have dipped. And so now we're starting to see that inventory grow. And I think, part of it is if I'm getting less phone calls inbound phone calls, with referrals and will you list my house and everything else, that creates the awesome opportunity of having more time for me to make outbound calls. I think a lot of agents just say, hey, there's no inbound, business sucks. And I say, there's no inbound, let's create some outbound. Like, it just doesn't matter to me who's making the phone call. The phone call is going to happen. And I think too, the mindset around it, like so many agents will brag, not right now, but they bragged 2-3 years ago about, well, I don't need to do all that. My business is referral based. And I kept telling them, you keep saying that. And when the market comes down, you're going to be broke. And I've had 3, not agents, brokers, 3 brokers reach out to me. I did 2 Zooms in the last month with these guys where they said, I've been doing business for I don't know how many years and everything's been going great. And all of a sudden it's drying up. I don't know what to do. And I'll say, great, share with me your prospecting plan. Well, I've never had to prospect. All of them said the same thing. I always get referrals and it's just always been a really healthy market. I said, well, guess what? It's changed. So you either change or you die. And that's your choice. You get to do what you want. But you've got to pick, but you've got to stay on the phones. And, you've really got to change your mindset too. I remember the 2 things I wanted to share now. When you lose an appointment or you lose a listing or you lose a sale, that's not bad news. It just is what it is. And it's a saving of time. So now instead of putting all my time into that thing, I'm going to go out and I'm going to find 2 more listings. So I might actually do double the business because I lost this listing. That's awesome. I like that. You've got to change your mind, right? So much. I know, anybody at the top knows that everything is so mental, right? But the last thing I'll say is whether you're a realtor, investor, really anything in sales, if you're focused on sales, it's going to be tough for you because people are going to hear that you're into sales. You want my money, you want the commission, and that's not very attractive. If you're literally 2 things, focused on helping people and solving problems, which I would say might even be bigger in your industry than mine, you're going to win. I mean, I used to do, we did a bunch of subject to also back in like 06, 07, 08. And I remember the guy who taught us how to do it, Lou Brown in Atlanta, Georgia. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
I don't know.
But he taught us how to do subject to, and he said, you've got to get out of this mindset of this is how a deal works. Every deal is different.
It is.
And you've got to think of like maybe they got a car worth 60 grand and it's paid off. That's an asset you could utilize. Maybe they've got a note or whatever. There's a million different things. If all you're thinking about is the one way you did a deal one time, you're going to have a tough time. You've got to think of what is their problem? How do I solve it and make a profit off it? Boom, that's how we do it. And it's tough to teach people that mindset.
Yeah, I agree. And the 2 biggest objections you have to overcome right from the beginning is people don't like salesmen. That's number 1.
Yeah.
And number 2 is they don't like to be sold. So you have to overcome that. And how do you do that? By providing value and solving problems.
Yep.
I couldn't agree more. That's great information. So a couple things as we wrap up here. Obviously you've had a lot of great success, as somebody who's been in this industry a long time. What is one thing, like one valuable lesson you've learned through the good times and bad times that you could share to anybody who wants it, is doing this business on or off market at this point?
Yeah, I mean, if this is a hobby for you, do what you want. But if you're taking this serious and this is a profession for you, whether you're an investor or you're a realtor or you're any other, self-employed person, you need to time block. It's just like your money. I can give you, we'll go back to my story in the beginning of this, right? I was making 150 grand, spending 160. You can make all the money in the world. And if you're not smart with it, it's going to go right out your pockets. But as soon as you put a budget in front of your face, you're going to start to say, okay, this is what I put towards this. This is what I put towards this. And you're going to see when you're short and you're going to see when you're fat on things. And it's going to make so much sense to you. The same is true with time. And in all honesty, time is a way more valuable resource than money. And so many people just let time fly. I
It's
start,
crazy, huh?
it's nuts.
Yeah.
Every single day, I start by grabbing my notepad and I literally, okay, what are my appointments today? What are they? Okay, then where can I fit my prospecting in? Where am I going to get my social media marketing? When am I going to do my rocks? I won't even get into what rocks are. When am I going to meet with my staff? And I just jot it all down every single minute. And then I just get to work and I start doing it. And I think if everybody took on that one habit of budgeting their entire day's minutes, you would see a completely different business within 90 days.
Yeah, I agree. And thinking about time wasting, I think of two examples that come to mind. All the people that sit in line at Starbucks forever in the drive-through rather than just walk inside and get a coffee.
45 seconds.
Right. They'd
Yeah.
rather just waste that time 10, 15, 20 minutes each and every day. And it just adds up over time. And then the other people are like, if there's a gas station that has a special sale, you'll see all of a sudden there's like 50 cars waiting in line to get gas 25 cents a gallon cheaper. And I'm thinking to myself, you're wasting all this time and money and effort just to save 25 cents. What is the value of the time that you just wasted there? But people don't think of that. They only think of dollars, not time. But time is really the true value in life.
Yeah. Yeah, my wife and I were talking about this. She's a dental assistant, right? I hope she doesn't see this now. And I had hired a guy to come out and pressure wash our fence on our pool area and whatever. And he was $150, which I thought was incredibly cheap. And it would have taken me, because I'm not a professional, it took this dude like 30 minutes. It would have taken me 2 hours.
Right.
And she was like, "How can you pay a guy $150?" And I'm like, "Honey, in that amount of time, the 2 hours that it takes for me to do that, do you know how many phone calls? I can make 200 phone calls.
Yeah.
And if I sell one house, I'm making $10,000, $15,000. Are you out of your mind? I'll pay for that guy all day long.
Your time is thousands of dollars an hour, right? Because that's the value that you can generate during that time. So I love that. All right. Last question as we wrap this up, before I want to, actually 2 more questions. Thinking about somebody brand new, right? Now listen to you, Joe, and not even off market. I want to be an agent. I want to get into real estate. I just want to start selling houses and being a rock star. But I don't know if I'm right for it. I'm afraid. What do I start? Like, if you're brand new, think of yourself in the beginning, knowing what you know now. What would you give a newbie wanting to take the leap of faith into real estate?
Yeah, so I'd say maybe 2 things. Number 1, you better be prepared. If you want to succeed, you better be prepared to do uncomfortable, inconvenient things. You're going to want to go to happy hour with your buddies, and 5 minutes prior, that's when you're going to get the $600,000 listing call. You're going to want to go to the beach. Go to the beach, but bring your cell phone and bring your call list and start making calls while you're there, right? Like, I'm not saying you can't have fun in life, but you better be prepared to do uncomfortable, inconvenient things. I will say my life is a lot cushier now than it was the first 3 years that I was here in Florida, because I had to throw monster events. Like, I was a party planner. I had to throw big events, and I, invited all the city council and the school board and the whatever, because I needed to build my network. Now I can leverage that network. Look at Dan, right? He's put how much time into building that page. Now that it's built up, he can go put a video out and get literally anything he wants done in 10 seconds. Yeah. But it seems like magic now. It's not magic. It's all the work so you've got to be willing to do that. And the second thing I would say is, and I'll say this with 95% assurance, you've got to join a team, a good team, and get a feel for what that team is before you join them. I have seen a lot of people come in and be successful on a team. If you can see what right looks like and you can mimic it for a year or 2 and then go off, I've seen much fewer people be successful starting on their own. And you can't just join any team. I remember the first team I joined them because he had leads, which I got like 1 lead every 2 months, and it was a junk lead. But he didn't give me training. He didn't support me. He didn't nothing. And he took 50% of all my money. You really need to look into what CRM are they going to offer me? Are they giving me leads? Are they giving me training? Do you have role play? Are you going to go on my first couple listing appointments with me? Can I go on a listing appointment with you? Can I shadow you? Can I call you at 9:00 at night when I'm writing an offer and we can Zoom share and you can walk me through everything? You need to ask those questions. Like, this is a business. Get out of the employee mindset, get into the employee, like, you own this business. If you don't ask the right question, you say, well, my team leader didn't explain it to me. it doesn't matter because now you're the one bankrupt and he's doing just fine.
Right.
Your team leader owes you something because you're paying him money, and whatever that owed thing is in your initial contract. You better have a contract. Make sure you've got the things in there that you want. Do your research and freaking own this business. It's your business. That's a tough thing to teach people. You know, we talked about in our sales meeting this morning that your best resource is not time, it's not money, it's resourcefulness. And you've gotta quit asking me for the answers. All it's not that I won't give them to you, I will, but go fail 3 times first and then come to me because I want you to learn that lesson, get that muscle of just figuring shit out, you know?
I love that. Yeah, you got to fail to succeed. There's no way around it, right?
100%.
You got to get your bumps and bruises like anything else. Well, that's a great segue to my last question. Is like, dude, like I'm ready to join your team. So like, if somebody's listening right now and says like, I'm ready to put in the time and effort and work, and I resonate with Joe, like, how would they go about signing up with your team? Is that even a possibility?
Yeah, so we've actually got agents in 7 states, and we're open in all 50 states, so we can take on anybody. And there's people who would be a good fit, people who won't. I'm very open about that. I'll tell you if you're a good fit for us or not, if it's good for you. And you can find me on Instagram at The Joe Rosen Show. You can find me on YouTube at thejoerosenshow.com, or I'm all over Facebook. I'm the big bald guy, and you'll see me on there. It's just Joe Rosen. But yeah, we'd love to. And even if you don't join my team, I help so many people for free in DMs, texts, phone calls, Zooms, whatever it is. I've probably helped 200-300 agents build business plans that aren't on my team, and I'm happy to do it for anybody.
That's amazing. And we'll put all that contact information in the show notes. And it's Joe Rosen, not Joe Rogan. Both are bald, both are badass, but both very different people. But, we'll make sure that all that contact information is in there. And if you guys are like serious, if you want to be on market listing and want to be in a team that's successful, I don't know if I've ever met a realtor more impressive than I have with Joe. And I say that wholeheartedly. And I've been around this business a long time, and I met a lot of realtors. I met some great realtors, but Joe stands out of all of them. So I strongly, strongly recommend you reach out to him. If you're considering joining a team, if you work hard and you're coachable, that team will, he will provide you the success that you need to be in your business in this industry. So go do it.
That's super kind. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Well, that's a great episode. We're going to leave it at that, Joe. We'll put all the stuff in. I really appreciate you being on the episode today, man. Tons of great value. So thank you.
Yeah, it's a huge honor, and I'm watching everything you're doing, and I love it, man. You and Dan are doing a phenomenal job out there.
Right back at you. All right, guys, that's this week's episode. Joe Rosen, man, what a rock star. Guys, go follow him today and watch. I'm telling you, once you start watching him on social media, you're going to understand what it means to work your butt off to generate, a great business plan and be that successful. Nothing in life comes easy. Everything you're going to have to work ass off on to achieve it. There's no easy way to get there. You're going to have some failures. You're going to have some mistakes, but stop waiting for something easy to come around and expect to have great results, because it's not going to happen. Go out, make it happen. Massive imperfect action. And if you want to do what Joe does, but you want to do it on the off-market side, well, then I recommend you come to me and Dan at reifreedom.com/apply, book a discovery call with me. We'll teach you the acquisition skills so you can learn how to get many deals just like Joe's doing, but off-market, and provide all that value and solve a lot of problems along the way. That's it for this week's episode, guys. Continue to work hard, build that life through real estate investing, build that time freedom that we're all trying to achieve, but it requires hard work. Don't stop hustling. Until next week, see you then.